Well, medical intuition is the branch of medicine that deals with the human body in relationship to the environment. Everything that a person is breathing, everything they're coming in contact with, everything that they're touching, that's how I work. That's my background. And I developed my skill in medical intuition when I was involved in environmental medicine. And for me, when I look at a person, their visual signs, in other words, their face can be pale and pasty, their eyes can be puffy, their hair can be thinning. So I have the visual signs, and then I also have knowing. We all have knowing, inner knowing, that we'd like to meet with the person. We would like to maybe perhaps not go somewhere, go somewhere. You know, we have the feelings of where we should go and who we should be with and what we should be doing. We have knowing. So I have knowing. And then also I use what's called inner guidance. Inner guidance is the small voice that we have inside of ourselves. Everyone has that, where they receive intuitive impressions, or they might receive a line of poetry, or they might, you know, just something that comes to them through that still small voice, which is wonderful to be able to access through meditation. So I have the inner voice. And then also, I have feelings. I have feelings about people, that something could be going on in their body. So I have the feelings, I have the knowing, and I have the inner guidance, and then the visual signs. So when I work with people, it's very fast. It's very fast. So I receive kind of like a download of information about them. And this came to me from doing so many years of allergy testing in a clinical setting for thousands and thousands of patient visits. And by the time I left a clinic, I had, gosh, over 50,000 patient visits. So I have a strong background in this field as well. And my real interest is in repair and regeneration. In other words, what can we do to support? It's not something that something is wrong. It's what can we do to correct? What can we do to support? What can we do to engage the body's own healing capacity? And that's what I'm interested in. The most common problem is fatigue. The person is tired. They're just plain beat tired. And what can they do about it? And they don't realize that there are several things in the diet that are usually contributing to fatigue. Maybe their hormones are out of balance. Maybe their thyroid is subclinically low, even though they've had it tested and it's normal. So there's certain things that can contribute to fatigue. And so I just I have the ability to be able to look at people and kind of look at what's happening to blood sugar handling, and potentially low thyroid is an issue, or whether or not there's hormone imbalances, and whether they're overstimulated, so they might be up and then they'll get tired. And so for years and years, I've just been able to look at people and pick up some of the reasons for their fatigue, and then we go into, okay, so how can we correct that? What can we do to boost the energy and strengthen them? And so I like that, because people do turn around. And so it's exciting. You know, the body has this incredible capacity to repair. And if we can engage that capacity, then the body will do the work. That's the beauty of the human body. Well, first of all, I do come from a medical family. My father was a doctor, and so was my grandfather, and my mother was a dietitian, so I come from a strong Western medical family. But my father was also very holistic, and his orientation was preventative medicine. So I think he would be quite pleased to see what his daughter is now doing. But I have a great deal of respect for traditional Western medicine, but unfortunately it doesn't have answers for chronic illness. It has answers for acute illness and emergency situations. It's brilliant there. But now we have an aging population, and people are declining, and they're having more inflammation. And unfortunately, traditional Western medicine doesn't have answers for those problems. And so that's why we have to embrace everything. That's what complementary medicine is to embrace allopathic, and to embrace alternative or holistic, and put all of these elements together. Yes. I have to say it's probably, 90% self-inflicted, but it's really a result of a lack of education. Once people get the pieces, and that's what I love to teach them the pieces of where they've gone down maybe the wrong path and how we can bring them back. And once you educate them as far as the pieces are concerned, they do brilliantly. Because once you let them know that the body has a capacity to repair, and if we give the body the tools, it will repair, they're so excited because it will happen quite dramatically. For example, something just very simple in terms of fatigue. A lot of people don't realize that wheat and flour-based products really can contribute to fatigue. And not only that, to arthritis and joint stiffness. So they're really quite thrilled if they start to go gluten-free, their pain backs off, they have more energy. So these are simple strategies, but they come from years and years of doing this work and having a really firm foundation in environmental medicine, which is where all of this for me developed on a personal level. How I would work with them. Well, usually the fatigue comes from poor blood sugar handling. For instance, I had an elderly woman in her 70s who came to me quite recently, and just making some simple changes with diet. She thought that by having cereal, for example, for breakfast with a lot of sugar on it, and she had milk that was probably, on the one hand for her a little bit of protein, a little bit of a saving grace. So she didn't realize that that breakfast for a woman in her 70s would not be appropriate for her in terms of blood sugar handling. She already was a pre-diabetic. She was, her doctors had told her, you have to straighten this up or you're going to have a diabetic condition. So she came to me. She did have fatigue issues, but the biggest issue for her, from my perspective, was blood sugar handling, and she's in her 70s. So we changed the diet. The cereal was okay as long as we changed it to another type of grain and not wheat. And then all we did there was just put a hard-boiled egg in, or maybe a couple of slices of organic ham or something that was a protein-based along with the cereal, and changed that. And then for dinner, if you can believe it, she was having granola. And so she was very tippy, very lightheaded, hypoglycemic. These are some of the symptoms of a pre-diabetic condition. We just changed that. We gave her some fish and vegetables and rice for dinner instead of more granola for dinner, and changed this. And then one of the other strategies that I find for people, and they don't realize this, is to eat more frequently. Eat every 3.5 hours, 4 hours at the most. Don't have long stretches. And she was going long stretches. For example, of a good lunch with a salad and maybe some fish for her lunch, she would go right through from that lunch all the way through to the next lunch with just sugar in between. And that's what cereal is. It's a refined carbohydrate which breaks down very quickly in 40 minutes to become sugar. But medical intuition, from my perspective, and I seem to be quite unique. There's people that do medical intuitive work, but I seem to do it in this way that's specifically to the physical body, just because I've had the background and the education in this way. But from my perspective, if we can balance a person's blood sugars, which is really something that's a practical strategy, then the byproduct is more energy. Well, I'm sure I'm one of a great team that Louise has. She has many wonderful people that help her, and yes, I have helped her. I'm very grateful to say and very honored. For quite a few years, I met her in 1999 quite by accident. All of a sudden she appeared in front of me, and I did a quick reading. I just kind of looked at her and got some impressions and wrote them down for her and asked her to implement them, which she did, and she felt an improvement. So we've been very much in communication about her health, and she's in her mid-80s now and doing extremely well. And of course, that was a wonderful foundation for me to become an author with her publishing company and go on the lecture circuit with them and to continue to help many, many people. So it's been a really very rewarding, very nice association.
Oh, I'm sure she's amazing. Practice.
Well, I find anybody can do anything until they hit the age of 40. As soon as they get to 40, the gate closes and it's time to make changes. I think people can more or less drink anything, smoke anything, do whatever they want. I mean, there are people definitely who suffer early on, even teenagers. I'm not saying this in a universal sense, but I do find that after 40, things change. That, of course, would be related to hormone decline in women especially. And then we become more sensitive, more reactive to many things in the environment, not just foods, but reactive to chemicals and reactive to things in the environment, environmental factors like ragweed and pollen and cats and dogs and dust mites and all sorts of things. So hormones play a big role because they're part of our healthy aging, they're part of our vibrance, our exuberance, and they're part of our youth. And so as they start to decline, we become more reactive. So yes, I would say that we have a certain window of time that we can fool around, do anything we want, and then it's time to start thinking, what does the body want? What is it showing us? And I love to teach this. I think this is medical intuition is a very teachable skill from my perspective. And I do several trainings a year, and especially one on the West Coast in the fall. And even just in a few days, people start to see things. They see it in themselves, they start to see it in other people. And even though the body is incredibly complicated, the body really is not that complicated when it comes to repair. Like a lot of people think, well, I'm not thinking clearly. I have foggy thinking, so therefore I should take a certain supplement like ginkgo or like CoQ10 or something like that. It's not related to that. If you want to correct your brain function and your memory, cognition, then improve your gut. I find that if you improve the digestive system, the memory improves, the energy comes up, the joint stiffness goes away. Really, the digestive tract is really the center. And when you talk to all kinds of alternative practitioners, they will tell you that first of all, the gut is the power center in terms of being able to digest and absorb and assimilate your own food, but it's also the power center emotionally. And so many people, when they have some kind of an emotional upheaval that happens in their life, they take it on right away at the gut level. So they lose power to some kind of energetic response to something that's happening in their life, and then they lose power digestively in terms of being able to handle and deal with specific foods, just because they've lost energetic power. And so many people give their power away to people, places, things outside of themselves. They give their power away to the past. They're very invested in the future, and they're rarely in the present moment. And so then they don't have great digestive tract power. They can't handle certain foods. They're not absorbing. That's a big one. When people progress in age, they can't absorb. They don't absorb properly. And so they're taking in food, they're taking in supplements, but they're not getting the benefit from them. So it's all linked. It's all linked together. And if you start to work with certain processes, just one process, then 3 or 4 processes improve. So it's not just one. It's taking kind of the head of the octopus, working there to balance it, and finding, there's some minor elements that start to clear up once you start taking care of the major issues. Well, first, I just give them the idea that it doesn't matter what their age is. It doesn't matter if they're in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, even their 70s, even their 80s. It doesn't matter how old they are, that the body has this capacity. And if we can instill that idea in them, that their body will repair if we give it the tools, that's exciting. So that's the first part. The second part is I always change the diet, because the diet 99% of the time is wrong. And people are addicted to certain substances. You mentioned addictions to caffeine. You mentioned, possible addictions to sugar and who knows what all they're addicted to. And addiction is something that's very powerful, and it has a hold over the person, and it's hard for them to put it down. And so what we try to do is spin it into the metaphysics. An addiction to sugar, for example. Did they know that cancer cells are glucose supported? Any fast-growing cell needs sugar to grow and proliferate. Oh, well, that's a big oh, that's a big wake-up call. That's a, oh my goodness. So that's a big motivator. So I like to kind of give them the reasons for the addictions and what they can do. You have to placate the inner child inside, you know, the inner boy, the inner girl. You have to placate that little person inside that wants these delicious things and supposedly comfort foods. So how do you switch it out? I mean, what's wrong with, for example, a little rice cracker with some nut butter on it that's kind of a little bit decadent? I give people little recipes how to make nut butter balls with coconut oil in them that are decadent and naturally sweet, and if they want something that's sweet, they would have that. But then you have to think of what are the metaphysics of some of these addictions, and the metaphysics around an addiction to sweet is, where's the sweetness in their life? Where's love in their life in terms of relationships and what they love to do and what they're passionate about and those sorts of things, to get fully engaged and fully excited about life on every level. And then to be spending more time focusing on creativity and the fun things, and rather than diving into the chocolate. And fair enough, people like chocolate, give them a couple of squares a week. I say 2 squares a week and a whole bar on your birthday. How about that? So you have to sort of let them gently ease out of the addictions, give them a little something, and then, but get them to understand what's the downside of what they're addicted to. And of course, people are interested in living well and living and longevity. They're interested in that. And so you talk to them about, if they are moderate in some of these addictive processes, that they won't age as quickly. And they'll have beautiful skin and their eyes will be bright. So you give them all kinds of reasons for wanting to do this. And for me, I keep people very closely connected with my radio shows and teleconferences, where I teach every week. I teach people and help them. And I think that's important, to keep them focused and motivated and feel very much enfolded and in the loop. And it interests me. And people are changing, which is why I stay with this work, because people are doing well and the response has been incredibly fulfilling and very favorable over the years. So I've been at it. Next year it'll be 30 years I've been doing this work.
Wow.
Yes, it's a long time. Yeah.
That's amazing. You don't
It is.
know.
It is amazing. Well, I'm not going to say exactly what my age is, but soon enough I'll be 70 years of age. And that's why I've been doing this for a long, long time.
Wow.
And I started young. I started at 39 years of age. I got started. I had the early warning signs of multiple sclerosis, and I was bumping into things and losing my memory and had all kinds of neurological issues. And in 1 month I was symptom-free, and I knew I'd witnessed something important, and I wanted to make it my life's work to educate other people.
Here we are with Katie Chambers. She has been a client of Caroline Sutherland's for a year now, and I believe it made great improvements in your health and your energy level, and please tell us a little bit more about that.
Caroline it's been wonderful working with her. Last year I heard her through Hay House Radio, and on her radio program talking about candida and women who, no matter what they do, they can't lose weight. And after hearing the radio show, I called her and did a one-on-one consultation. And it was really interesting because not only was it candida, but having food sensitivities. And the trigger things would be the caffeine, the sugar, the wheat, and dairy. So those things create inflammation and really can puff your body up. So after, kind of going through a detox after about 30 days and clearing a lot of that out of your system, it's amazing how you sleep better, you're more energetic. Everybody thinks that the coffee is what makes you so energetic, and it's really taxing on your adrenal system. So clearing all of that out of your system makes a tremendous amount of difference. It's like putting the wrong fuel in a car. You don't put diesel fuel in a car that takes regular gasoline. So after making those changes and exercising regularly, it's made a tremendous impact on my health and just my overall well-being.
So the changes took effect when, after a few days, after a month?
It's amazing. Just within, say, 48 hours, 72 hours, you start getting the caffeine out of your system, the sugar cravings go away, say after 72 to, what's another day, another 4 days, I mean, after a week, it's amazing. It doesn't really take that long to start feeling the well-being of eliminating those things out of your diet. The other thing that I love about Caroline is that she's not telling you to never have these things, but that, as far as she's concerned, she's so sweet. She's like, you may as well pack your bags if somebody's going to tell you to never have something. So the beauty of it is she's suggesting if there is something that you like chocolate or a glass of wine on occasion, but don't make it an everyday thing.
And the process was eliminating the foods that were causing the ill effects. And the second thing was, I think, supplements that she recommended.
Yes. So in addition to that, let's face it, the soil that we have now doesn't have all the natural nutrients that it once did. So supplementing your diet with, certain supplements based on her consultation, evaluation of me personally, adding those things to the diet has made a tremendous improvement. But tackling that candida, because your body kind of feeds always wanting the sugar, and getting that under control makes a big difference. You're not always, after you have dinner when you would typically crave that sweet, that's not there anymore, which is really great.
Oh, I know. I had a reading too, and I'm candida and adrenal, and I guess addicted to caffeine. I'm right there with you. So I'm looking at, you're my inspiration. You've been, and your energy levels increased. You sleep better. You're not as foggy as you used to be. What other things improved that you feel really strongly about?
Well, I think the fogginess, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you just really want to lay down and take a nap, that feeling has diminished, tremendously. There are days when you still want to lay down and take a nap, but, overall, I mean, that fogginess and just your energy level, always having that protein with a well-balanced carbohydrate, if indeed it's like a piece of fruit, really making sure that you have that protein. And she always says, if you have a craving for a sweet, have a protein, because that's really what your body's craving.
Great. Anything else you would like to add? I'm sure you recommend her teachings highly. Anything else you'd like to add that you feel strongly about? Something that she has recommended?
That rest and relaxation is really important. You have to make sure that you get enough sleep. We're a society where everything is go, go, go. Everything's really fast-paced. And you have to make sure that you get an adequate amount of sleep. But you did take the words right out of my mouth. I would highly recommend Caroline to anyone that's having any type of health issues. So,
great. Thank you so much. And yes, I just had a reading and took the class with her, and I'm very impressed as well. And I don't feel bloated today, which is great. Thank you, Katie. Really appreciate your words and your experience, sharing your experience with us.
thank you. Thank you.